Acting, by its very definition, involves performing a fictional role. When performing a fictional role and pretending to be somebody else, an actor has to project that character's traits, which range from their speech and intelligence to their body language and skills. The latter of those traits, the skills, can often be difficult to convey, which is why, in a lot of cases, actors actually have to learn new skills to convincingly become another person on screen. In this video, we'll take a look at just some of the skills that actors have had to become proficient at in order to portray certain characters on the big screen. Here are 10 crazy skills actors had to learn for movie roles. Olivia Munn, sword skills for X-Men Apocalypse. The very beautiful Olivia Munn played the mutant Psylocke, one of Apocalypse's 4 recruits and a skilled user of a sword, in 2016's X-Men Apocalypse. To prepare for that role, Munn endured 6 hours of daily sword fighting training, and she became incredibly skilled in the art of wielding a blade. She showed off her impressive skills in an Instagram video alongside Ryan Reynolds, who played Deadpool in the Merc with a Mouth's titular movie, which was also released in 2016. Although Reynolds also trained with a sword for that role, he was no match for Munn in the video, as his sword was made of balloons. Channing Tatum, tap dancing for Hail Caesar. If you've seen Step Up and Magic Mike, you'll probably understand why the Coen brothers assumed that Channing Tatum could tap dance when they cast him in 2016's Hail Caesar. They were wrong to do so, however, and Tatum spent months preparing for his role as actor and dancer Bert Gurney in the movie. About that preparation, Tatum said, "I spent about 3 months preparing. It's the most I've ever prepped for a 6-minute section in a movie. We went over Christmas and New Year's, so I had all that time to let it gestate. I let it sink into my bones over the holiday break. When I'm nervous about something, I drill it to a point that is probably unhealthy, but as long as it works even halfway, I'm happy at the end of the torturous day." Natalie Portman, ballet for Black Swan. Natalie Portman played the ballet dancer Nina Sayers in the brilliant 2010 psychological thriller Black Swan, and the American-Israeli star actually learned ballet for the role. She trained for at least 5 hours each day whilst working on other projects at the same time. Portman told the New York Times it was a rude awakening to get there and to be like, "I don't know what I'm doing. If I had known how not close to ready I was, I never would have tried it. I'm glad I was a little ignorant/arrogant." The training definitely paid off for her, however. The actress won the Academy Award for Best Actress for her performance in the film. Robert Downey Jr., the violin for Chaplin. Long before Robert Downey Jr. was Iron Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the actor played an equally iconic figure for the real world, that being English comic actor Charlie Chaplin in 1992's Chaplin. And he had to learn a very interesting skill for the role. To accurately portray the actor, Downey Jr. learned to play the violin, as well as a little bit of tennis, incidentally, and he had to do so left-handed. His performance in the role earned him an Oscar nomination for Best Actor, but he was ultimately, and unfortunately, beaten by Al Pacino for his performance in Scent of a Woman. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, tightrope walking for The Walk. In 2015, Joseph Gordon-Levitt portrayed real-life daredevil Philippe Petit in The Walk, a movie about Petit's tightrope walk between the Twin Towers in New York City. Gordon-Levitt actually worked with Petit to learn tightrope walking for the role, a challenge he enjoyed and benefited greatly from. Gordon-Levitt told Entertainment Weekly, "He's such an optimist, Philippe. He's such a positive thinker, and when someone believes that you can do something, then you yourself believe you can do it, and that's when you can actually do it, when you believe in yourself." The actor still struggled a little with the height, however. Jennifer Lawrence, chopping wood and skinning squirrels for Winter's Bone. Jennifer Lawrence is currently the hottest actress in Hollywood, and she has her breakout role in Winter's Bone to thank for her rise to the top. The 2010 drama saw Lawrence playing Ree Dolly, a teenage girl who looked after her whole family in rural America while teaching them basic survival skills like hunting and cooking. For the role, Lawrence learned how to chop wood and how to skin a squirrel. If you haven't seen the scene in which she does the latter, we don't recommend it. It's really not very pleasant on the eyes. Jesse Eisenberg, magic tricks for Now You See Me. In 2013's heist thriller Now You See Me, Jesse Eisenberg played Danny Atlas, aka The Lover. Atlas was an arrogant illusionist and street magician, and a member of the magic group known as the Four Horsemen, and Eisenberg actually learned some magic and sleight of hand tricks for the movie. About what he had learned, Eisenberg said, "I'm better than I was before the movie started, but not good enough to do them in public. My character has been practicing since he was 8 years old, so he's been working on the same tricks every single day, 8 hours a day. To get as good as my character is, I would have to start 20 years ago." Adrian Brody, The Piano for the Pianist. Given the plot, and indeed the title, of 2002's The Pianist, it should come as no surprise to learn that the movie's star, Adrian Brody, had to learn to play the piano for his role in the movie as Polish pianist and classical composer Władysław Szpilman. What might be surprising is the extent he went to learn it. Brody went fully method for the role, telling BBC, "I gave up my apartment, I sold my car, I disconnected the phones, and I left. I took 2 bags and my keyboard and moved to Europe." His efforts certainly paid off, as he won the Academy Award for Best Actor for his performance. Daniel Day-Lewis, tracking, hunting, and skinning animals for The Last of the Mohicans. Daniel Day-Lewis is, of course, known for his method acting. It's the main reason he's won 3 Best Actor Oscars after all. But the English-Irish star went above and beyond to perfect his performance for the 1992 adventure drama masterpiece, The Last of the Mohicans. Day-Lewis actually lived outdoors as a survivalist as an extreme form of preparation to play Nathaniel Poe, aka Hawkeye, the white adopted son of the last chief of the Mohawk tribe, in the movie. The actor picked up a very useful skill in the process as well. He learned how to hunt his own food. Margot Robbie holding her breath for 5 minutes for Suicide Squad. There's a scene in 2016 Suicide Squad in which the Joker's purple Lamborghini ends up in some water with him and Harley Quinn still inside. He escapes, but Harley is left halfway through the windshield sprawled across the bonnet, and Batman has to swim to the bottom of the water to rescue her. The scene only required actress Margot Robbie to be underwater for 1 minute, but she trained herself to hold her breath for 5, telling Jimmy Fallon, "It's all about lowering your metabolic rate. You kinda like meditate underwater. It's what freedivers do, but it's amazing." I got to 5 minutes and I was like, you know what? This is above and beyond what I thought I'd get to. I'm good with 5. Thanks for watching our video about 10 crazy skills actors had to learn for movie roles. Did you enjoy the video? Which other skills do you know that actors were taught for their movie roles? Have your say in the comment section below, and be sure to subscribe to our channel for more great videos like this one.
One of the coolest things about being an actor must be the chance to learn all kinds of weird and random skills in order to take on a role. While those of us who don't get to pretend to be other people for a living have the choice to learn whatever cool skill we want in our spare time, actors get to do so all the time. And with the best teachers in the world, they're actually paid by the movie studios to become experts in all sorts of areas, from music to martial arts and everything in between. Check out the rest of this video to find out some of the strangest things actors have ever had to learn for a movie. While she may have been nominated for her first Oscar for Winter's Bone, it was The Hunger Games that really introduced Jennifer Lawrence to the world and made her an overnight sensation. The Hunger Games would not have been the same without Lawrence's Katniss, and both the character and the actor share a determination to not be messed with. Archery was an essential aspect of the Katniss character, so in order to play her authentically, Lawrence underwent intense training with a bow and arrow. She trained under Katuna Lorig, a 5-time Olympic medalist in the sport, and quickly mastered the bow and arrow, which really brought her interpretation of Katniss to life on the big screen.
Thank you for your consideration.
It's not uncommon for actors to have to learn some kind of martial arts or fighting skills to play in an action movie, but what Dave Franco had to learn for Now You See Me in 2013 takes it to a whole other level. The actor had to train in the art of card throwing. Also known to the filmmakers as sleight of hand combat, card throwing was Franco's character's preferred method of fighting, by throwing playing cards with such speed and precision that they actually became weapons. While they could have faked it with CGI, Franco wanted to be as authentic as possible and trained rigorously with master magician David Kwong to learn the art of card throwing. He got so good that he wound up being able to slice a banana and pop a balloon with a playing card, and he even cut Mark Ruffalo's face with one, for real.
Damn, it feels good to be back.
While some skills that actors learn, like playing an instrument or mastering kung fu, go on to become useful in their off-screen lives as well, some of them are not so useful. Well, we hope anyway. At least that's the case for Bryan Cranston, who actually learned the process of cooking the drug known as meth for his iconic role as Walter White on the show Breaking Bad. The show, which was often praised for its realism, had hired 2 DEA agents to help the actors and the crew nail down the specifics of the meth-making process, and clearly it paid off. Even though they never actually used the chemicals required to make the real drug, they paid close attention to the process, including equipment, temperature, time, and the technique behind the whole thing. Joseph Gordon-Levitt has played many roles, but one of his most challenging was definitely 2015's The Walk, which saw him taking on the real-life story of Philippe Petit, the man who successfully walked on a tightrope strung between the 2 twin towers in New York City in 1974. Of course, Gordon-Levitt never actually had to walk on a high wire at that height, but he did have to learn the skills needed to do so believably, even if it was only a few feet off the ground and in front of a green screen. He actually trained with Petit himself and spent hours and hours learning to balance on a wire cable, starting from a line on the floor and working his way up to be suspended in the air. Daniel Day-Lewis is a man who loves a challenge and who will do just about anything to get into a character. He proved this early on in The Last of the Mohicans, in which he actually spent a year living off of the land like his character. To do so, he had to learn how to track and hunt animals for food and how to build a canoe from scratch. He also learned how to carry and fire a musket, along with being able to reload it while running. Day-Lewis was so determined to stay in character that he would even refuse to eat the on-set catering, instead choosing to only eat what he could hunt and cook himself the entire time. It is a daunting task for any actor to be charged with bringing a beloved character to life on screen for the first time. When Olivia Munn was cast as Psylocke for the X-Men comics and X-Men Apocalypse, she knew that she would have to train hard in order to give the fans the character that they deserved. Not only does Psylocke have mutant powers, she's also a ninja with serious sword skills. Munn spent 5 months in intense sword training, learning how to use a katana. Luckily for her, she already was a skilled martial artist when she began, so she wound up being able to perform 95% of her own stunts in the movie, and fans everywhere could rest easy because she did serious justice to the character. While this experience was far less glamorous than her archery training for the Hunger Games, what Jennifer Lawrence learned for Winter Bones is definitely more, unique. Playing a character living below the poverty line in the Ozarks of Missouri, there were a few scenes that required Lawrence to do some very un-Hollywood things. Firstly, she had to learn how to chop wood as though she had been doing it since she was a child, and secondly, she had to learn how to fully skin a squirrel, which she demonstrates on screen. Lawrence has never been one to shy away from a challenge, so she took the skinning scene seriously and was taught how to do so properly. Playing Harley Quinn might look like nothing but a ton of fun, but for Margot Robbie, the preparation to take on this beloved character was nothing short of grueling. First, she had to train her body to be able to do all of the acrobatics and the gymnastic style of fighting that the character required. So, to do so, she spent 6 months training every day in order to learn how to flip, backflip, roll, and perform all of the other feats of strength that Harley Quinn exhibits in her films. The other thing she had to do was learn to hold her breath for an extended period of time for the scene in Suicide Squad in which she and Joker drive a car off of a pier and she's saved by Batman. She learned to hold her breath for 5 full minutes, which by the way was longer than her professional stunt double. While Dave Franco was at one end of the set of Now You Can See Me, learning how to cut fruit with a playing card, Jesse Eisenberg and the rest of the cast were at the other, learning how to do magic like the pros.
Stop.
There's a ton of sleight of hand magic in both the first movie and the sequel, so each actor had to learn how to perform it in a believable way. While they could have just cut to a professional magician's hand in order to make it easier for everyone, the cast wanted to master the skill in order to understand their characters. Eisenberg got so good at magic that he would practice in between takes for the crew, and then break the magician's code and tell them all how he did it. The Haunting of Hill House was one of the best horror TV shows to come out in recent years, and that was due in large part to its awesome cast. While they all went to different lengths to prepare for their roles, no one went quite as far as Elizabeth Reeser. When she found out that she would be playing a mortician in the series, the production crew actually sent her videos of bodies being embalmed so that she could get used to the images and familiarize herself with the process. She then went out and actually trained with a working mortician, going so far as to assist with real-life human embalmings and putting her hands inside real deceased people. Now that is commitment. Oftentimes, when an actor needs to dance in a film, they hire a body double to do all the really tough technical stuff. And while they did do this for Darren Aronofsky's ballet horror Black Swan, that didn't mean that Natalie Portman was off the hook and able to relax and eat donuts all day. Quite the opposite, actually. Portman started an intensive 6 days a week ballet training program with one of the top dancers in the United States 5 months before filming took place, and she seriously earned her part as a professional ballerina. She would dance from early morning until night on a very strict diet, go to the pool and swim a mile, and return the next morning to start all over again. Dennis Quaid is one of those actors with such a long and impressive career that it's hard to imagine that there are things that he has not done for a movie. But one of the most remarkable feats that he accomplished to develop a character was becoming an actual pilot. When he was cast as the pilot and astronaut, Captain Gordon Cooper, in the film The Right Stuff, Quaid went above and beyond learning what buttons to push to make it look like he could fly. He actually went out and got his pilot's license. In fact, he became so enamored with flying that it became a serious hobby of his, and he still flies planes to this day. Though if he was really committed, he would have become an astronaut as well and gone into space. Come on, you know that Daniel Day-Lewis would have. It seems like once they get the chance to go up in the air, some actors never want to come down. Like Dennis Quaid, Tom Cruise also took it upon himself to learn to fly an aircraft for Mission Impossible, but this time it was a helicopter. For insurance reasons, they won't just let actors take one lesson and hop in the captain's seat and call action. Cruise had to prove himself an expert flyer before they would let him do so on set, so he did. He logged over 2,000 hours of training time before they began filming and learned how to do a 360 spiral towards the ground. All of the flying that you see in the film is Cruise himself, which is as terrifying as it is impressive. You might look back at The Notebook and wonder what special skills were required of Ryan Gosling to star in that movie, aside from being dreamy and maybe climbing a Ferris wheel.
Say it again.
I want to go with you!
All right, we'll go out.
But Gosling is a very dedicated actor, and since his character of Noah is a craftsman who builds a house from the ground up, Gosling took it upon himself to learn how to work with wood. He spent 2 months living like Noah, and wound up so good at woodworking that he actually built some of the furniture that you see in the movie. When watching the movie Chef, it's very clear that the whole thing was a passion project for Jon Favreau. The famed Iron Man director definitely didn't need to learn how to cook like a pro for a tiny indie project that he stars in, but when you've got Marvel and Disney money, hey, why not? He wanted to be as authentic as possible in the film, so he trained with his good friend and chef, Roy Choi, and the two of them went on to develop a cooking show together. It's called The Chef Show. Many non-American actors out there have learned English in order to star in Hollywood films, but it's slightly more rare for two English speakers to have to learn not only a new language, but a fictional one at that, which is what makes Jason Momoa and Emilia Clarke so impressive. Both actors learned to fluently speak Dothraki, that's a fictional language for Game of Thrones. While they could have just spoken gibberish, the writers actually invented the language for them to learn, so they could perform entire scenes while speaking it. Rooney Mara underwent an unbelievable transformation for her role as Elizabeth Sander in The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. She lost weight, cut and dyed her hair, got multiple piercings, and bleached her eyebrows. Most impressively, however, is the fact that she actually enrolled in computer training courses and learned how to hack like her character does in the film. She also learned how to ride a skateboard and got a motorcycle license so she could do some of her own driving. What audiences saw was a complete and amazing transformation into the character, and she was rightly nominated for an Oscar for the role. Mickey Rourke is one of those actors who is undeniably talented, but had a pretty rough few years, or decades. All of that changed when he appeared in The Wrestler, one of the most vulnerable and heartbreaking performances of all time. In order to play an aging professional wrestler, Rourke had to transform his body and learn all of the pro wrestling moves. He trained for hours every day for 4 months, and the result is undeniable. Well, it was only a matter of time before Daniel Day-Lewis popped back on this list, except this time it's not so much hunting and gathering, and a lot more draping and pleating. For Phantom Thread, Day-Lewis lent his trademark dedication to the role by learning to sew like a pro, developing techniques like pattern drafting, draping, stitching, and cutting. When Michelle Pfeiffer landed the role of one of the most iconic comic book villains of all time, she knew that she was going to have to work hard to bring her to life on screen. We're talking about her revered portrayal of Catwoman in Batman Returns. While Catwoman had already been made famous by Eartha Kitt, Pfeiffer's take on the role involved a lot more physicality and one very special skill: wielding a whip. On top of a rigorous workout and a strict diet, Pfeiffer made a point to learn how to use a whip like an absolute pro. And even 30 years after the movie hit the big screen, she still knows her stuff.
Look what I found.
Keanu Reeves is no stranger to having to train for his films. He notoriously learned kung fu and acrobatics for his turn as Neo in the Matrix trilogy. So when it came time for the actor to take on the role of John Wick, he went all in. The most rigorous part of the training process was definitely the tactical firearm training that he did in order to prepare, and the results are amazing. Reeves does almost all of his own fightings in these very fight-heavy movies, and if you've seen them, you know that there are lots and lots and lots of guns. He learned how to shoot from other army veterans and other former military specialists, and didn't stop until he had totally mastered the handling of handguns. Many actors have learned to play musical instruments for various roles, but more often than not, it's the piano or the guitar. While still impressive, they're not exactly unique. But when Reese Witherspoon learned that she'd been cast as June Carter Cash in Walk the Line, she had to learn how to play a far lesser-known instrument, the auto harp. She and Joaquin Phoenix both learned to play their respective instruments so well that all of the playing that you see in the film are actually the actors. They're not body doubles. Nowadays, Robert Downey Jr. is on top of the world and beloved for his portrayal of Tony Stark, aka Iron Man. But one of his most amazing films ever has gotta be Chaplin, in which the actor completely transforms into the first ever true movie star, Charlie Chaplin. Downey Jr. had to learn a lot about Chaplin for the film, but most impressively, he learned how to play the violin, left-handed. While Step Up and Magic Mike proved to the world that Channing Tatum is an amazing dancer, that doesn't mean that he's skilled in all forms of dance. But ever since he appeared in the Coen brothers' Hail Caesar, he can add one more style to his resume: tap dancing. Tatum had never put on tap shoes in his life before he was cast in the film, but a 6-minute-long old Hollywood-style tap dance routine meant that he had to learn. He trained intensely for 3 months until he was able to tap like the old pros. It clearly paid off, as Tatum made tap dancing look effortless, all while singing, acting, and hopping up on tables. Even though it's become the norm for actors to get ridiculously jacked up for one role or another these days, that wasn't always the case, which made Demi Moore's transformation into G.I. Jane incredibly impressive. Not only did she transform her body, she trained like an actual member of the military in order to portray the first ever female Navy SEAL officer.
Actors are required to call upon a variety of skills and abilities when working on a movie. Some of the biggest names in Hollywood are multi-talented people who can do much more than just act. Everyone needs a hobby, and some turn to martial arts to stay in shape or even prepare for a role. But there are those who take things to the next level. Here are 10 famous actors you didn't know had serious martial arts skills. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe.
See what comes of breaking the rules.
Jason Statham. Statham has emerged as one of the best badasses in modern action cinema and has definitely carved out a niche for himself. Given his reputation, it shouldn't come as any surprise that Statham is proficient in martial arts. In fact, he's on the same skill level as some MMA fighters, meaning he could easily throw it down in the octagon if he wanted to. Kickboxing is his specialty, but Statham is also trained in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and all this knowledge has gone a long way in advancing his acting career. Statham is famous for doing his own unchoreographed stunts, and he's showing no signs of slowing down.
You're nothing to me but another dead vampire.
Wesley Snipes. As one of the first modern comic book movies, the original Blade had to bring something exciting to the table to wow 1998 audiences. The ace of their sleeve was star Wesley Snipes, who was perfect for the leading role. Snipes has been training in martial arts since he was 12 years old, earning a 5th Dan black belt in Shotokan Karate and a 2nd Dan black belt in Hapkido. He's also trained in a variety of other disciplines, including Kung Fu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and kickboxing. Though Blade was the best showcase for his abilities, Snipes has put together a great resume of action films that prove all that training didn't go to waste.
You always said the person that ends a fight was the winner.
Taylor Lautner. Lautner first emerged as the heartthrob for Team Jacob enthusiasts everywhere. But the actor is more than just a pretty face. He began training in karate when he was 6 and even received a black belt at age 8. He was even ranked #1 in his category by the American Sports Karate Association. So his life could have turned out very differently if he didn't turn to acting. His martial arts skills have helped him in films like The Adventures of Shark Boy and Lava Girl, and were of great assistance while training for Twilight. Lautner hasn't done much since Twilight ended, but maybe he can find some use for his karate soon.
Set me up a fight, and I'll show you.
Michael J. White. White's screen presence can come across as physically imposing. A major reason for that is because the actor is an extremely dedicated and gifted martial artist. He has no fewer than 8 black belts in Shotokan, Taekwondo, Kabuto, Goju Ryu, Tang Soo Do, Washu, and Kyokushin. White has also been training in Jiu-Jitsu since the age of 7. This impressive skill set has popped up frequently in his career, including films like Exit Wounds, where White starred with Steven Seagal. With everything he knows, directors should find plenty more parts for him.
I mean, I've got to be honest with you, I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for something bigger, you know?
John Cusack. When you think of John Cusack, the first movies that come to mind are 1980s touchstones like Stand By Me and Say Anything. Not exactly what you'd call action films, but it was Say Anything that introduced the actor to the world of martial arts. When preparing for that film, Cusack took up kickboxing because the character he played was an aspiring kickboxer. He continued training for more than 2 decades afterwards, and now holds a level 6 black belt in trainer Benny Urquidez's Yukidokan kickboxing system. Most of his roles haven't featured this aspect of his career, but maybe Cusack will get a chance to show off his skills in the future.
Bonjour.
Ashton Kutcher. Ashton Kutcher seems like a goofy, easygoing guy, but he could probably beat you up if you rubbed him the wrong way. As part of his healthy lifestyle, Kutcher trained in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, even traveling to the country several times to practice his methods. Under the guidance of trainer Ricardo de la Riva Godet, Kutcher has achieved a black belt, illustrating his supreme dedication to the craft. The actor has mostly made comedies during his time in Hollywood, but if he ever wanted to branch out into action, he could surely put a strong demo reel together and make a lasting impression.
I swear to God, I'll throw a shoe at your head.
Ed O'Neill. Famous for roles in sitcoms such as Married with Children and Modern Family, Ed O'Neill introduced himself to even more people this past summer when he voiced the lovable octopus Hank in Finding Dory. His characters don't usually fall into the action realm, so it may come as a shock that the quintessential TV dad is a skilled martial artist. O'Neill has trained in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for the last 22 years and received his black belt back in 2007. He called it the greatest achievement of his life, apart from his children. He's been nominated for 2 Golden Globes, so that shows just how important martial arts are to him.
I know Kung Fu.
Keanu Reeves. One of the most famous lines in The Matrix is Neo proclaiming, "I know Kung Fu." And Keanu Reeves could give his iconic character a run for his money. Getting hooked on martial arts while prepping for the first Matrix film, Reeves has trained in Jiu-Jitsu, Wushu, boxing, and Krav Maga. These talents have unquestionably helped him as he emerged as one of the leading action stars of his generation. Reeves loves doing his own stunts, and being in peak physical condition allows him to do so. He's also had to train in judo and karate for more recent roles like John Wick, so he'll just keep adding to his repertoire.
What kind of monster are you? The Wolverine.
Hugh Jackman. Jackman is a man with a plethora of gifts. He's naturally charming, can belt out a tune or two, and transform himself into a homicidal mutant for the X-Men films. Jackman's most famous role is, of course, Wolverine, and his training regimen for getting into the proper shape has become almost as legendary as his performances. Jackman's extreme commitment to the part means he's always game to do his own stunts. He doesn't put himself through all that work just for a stuntman to take the spotlight. Jackman has studied martial arts techniques to help better Wolverine's movements and action sequences. With only 1 film left before he steps away from the franchise, we'll be sad to see him go. Chloe Grace Moritz. This youngster splashed onto the scene when she took on the role of Hit Girl in Kick-Ass, and she wasn't going to back down from the challenges of the part. While preparing before filming, Grace Moritz trained with none other than Jackie Chan's stunt crew for 3 months. That sounds like good company to have, and the results definitely paid off. During production, Grace Moritz was able to do a majority of her own stunts on location, giving her performance an authenticity that would have been difficult to replicate with a double. After watching the film, we don't want to mess with Hit Girl or Chloe. Neither would end well.
Sweet dreams.
These are just some of the actors who have become skilled in martial arts, be it for their own interests or a particular role. Which ones did we miss? Sound off in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe so you can see more videos.
When we think of a superhero, we usually think of their superpowers, such as Superman's ability to fly or Spider-Man's ability to shoot webbing. Every child has dreamed of having these skills and being able to fight crime, but superpowers are not the only way to define a superhero. If it was, numerous villains could be defined as superheroes too, right? These unique personality traits, skills, and qualities are what make up superheroes, and sometimes the actors that play them possess them as well. Subscribe to Screen Rant as we introduce you to Screen Rant's list of 10 superhero actors who can do superhero things. Jennifer Garner as Elektra. Jennifer Garner showed her skills as the star of the TV series Alias from 2001 to 2006 as CIA agent Sydney Bristow. She was also the assassin Elektra Nachios in the 2003 film Daredevil and the 2005 spin-off Elektra. She had a tremendous work ethic, lots of training, and a plan to make her roles believable, but none more than her training with Okinawan Sai, Elektra's usual weapon of choice. These blades are dangerous, but Garner practiced them daily while shooting to look like a master on film, and she can still use them to this day. Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye. The bow-wielding superhero Hawkeye looks at ease when shooting a bow in the Avengers films, and there's a reason for that. Renner trained under Olympic archers to boost his skills and to ensure he was able to use a bow and arrow correctly.
This can't seem to miss.
Renner has said that being a traditional straight shooter isn't all that he needed to know while using an arrow. The Avengers hero also pulverizes his enemies by using a bow as a blunt weapon and spinning it like a baton as well.
We're still friends, right?
Depends on how hard you hit me.
Another skill he's picked up along the way. Nicolas Cage as Ghost Rider. Nicolas Cage's Johnny Blaze is a stunt motorcyclist who sold his soul to the devil and transformed into the vigilante Ghost Rider. Even though his face didn't turn into a skull and catch on fire in real life, he was an avid motorcyclist. He caused so much trouble on his bike that his insurance company told him he wasn't allowed to ride anymore. So he eagerly looks for films that he gets to ride a motorcycle in because he enjoys it so much.
Hear the music.
Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. Ryan Reynolds' quick wit, dirty jokes, and sarcastic attitude are why fans are eager to see him play the role of Deadpool again. Boom. Luckily, he has the same mindset as his superhero character, or we would have never seen his 2016 hit film. Reynolds is very persistent. It took him a decade to get the film made, but he kept at it, just like the revenge his character pursued in the film. He had better keep that persistence and give us a few more sequels to Deadpool, or we're gonna be persistent with bothering him for them.
This guy's got the right idea.
Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. Gal Gadot first portrayed Wonder Woman in 2016's Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice, and she proved to the world that she was flawless for the role. Maybe this has to do with her 2-year stretch in the Israeli Defense Forces, where she received weapons and combat training. Wonder Woman fights against evil just like Gadot was trained to. Next time you see Gadot on screen battling a villain, remember that she can do that in real life too. Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk. In times of stress, Dr. Bruce Banner is able to unleash a destructive anger known as the Hulk. In an interview with New York Daily News, Mark Ruffalo said he could relate to the Hulk because he himself had a lot of anger issues in his 20s. Ruffalo said, "There was a time if you came into my apartment, there were pictures and posters hanging in very odd places where they were covering fist holes through walls. We're glad he was able to use that anger in the Avengers films and start punching holes in enemies instead." Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Hugh Jackman is arguably the best actor to ever play Wolverine, and since he's been playing the character for over 12 years, we feel that the fans and the studio definitely agree. Not only does he prepare with ruthless workouts, but he's also trained in martial arts, including samurai sword fighting. Jackman's skills as a martial artist make his role more believable, and give us another reason to not want to mess with him in real life. We are definitely gonna miss him as Wolverine. Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark, and when he dies, his tombstone will most likely have both names on it. He's rich, he has a fashion flair, he knows how to throw a party, and he attributes much of his success to his father. Still, in real life, he has hero instincts. When a woman gashed her leg badly and onlookers stood shocked, it was Downey who took charge. He helped control the bleeding, kept her distracted, and directed people to call an ambulance and get her water. He stayed until help arrived, ruining his suit but helping a very grateful woman. Taylor Kitsch as Gambit. The film X-Men Origins Wolverine is arguably the weakest of the X-Men franchise, but that doesn't have to do with co-star Taylor Kitsch. Since he was playing Gambit, he was able to show off some of his card tricks. He learned how to trick shuffle and perform card tricks just for the role. Sadly, we won't see any more card tricks from him, since he isn't cast in the upcoming Gambit film.
You have a metal arm? That is awesome, dude!
Tom Holland as Spider-Man. Spider-Man is one of the most athletic superheroes in the MCU due to a bite from a radioactive spider. The newly cast Spider-Man, Tom Holland, showed off some of his skills in Captain America: Civil War, and fans were excited to see him perform stunts.
I don't know if you've been in a fight before, but there's usually not this much talking.
Alright, sorry, my bad.
But not all of his stunts were done with cables and CGI. Holland is a trained dancer, and he's also been training with stuntmen for his upcoming Spider-Man films. He recently showed a video of himself performing a backflip while nailing the Spider-Man pose.
It's not easy.
What do you think of our video? Did we skip over any other superhero actors who can do superhero things? Sound off in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe to our channel for more fun videos.